Hello, my name is Kara Warburton, and I want to thank you for considering taking my online courses in terminology management. In this short video, I'm going to explain why I think it's useful for you to take these courses. First of all, we need to redefine amongst ourselves what terminology actually is. In today's day and age, with the advent of AI, artificial intelligence, terminology is no longer what it used to be. When I use the word terminology, I mean the science of building and managing lexical resources of various sorts that can be used in various applications such as translation, technical writing, authoring, controlled authoring, search engine optimization, and all kinds of other applications, including recently AI. So it's not really just terminology in the classical sense anymore. It's not, for example, medical terminology or legal terminology or, engineering terminology. It's more about the management of digital linguistic resources for optimal purposes. And this is why in the early parts of my course, I start to talk about micro content instead of terminology, because the idea behind terminology is a little bit narrow nowadays. So it's more about micro content and how we can use micro content to our advantage as linguists, as language managers, as information architects, search engine optimizers, and so on. Now, why my courses and not something else? Well, we do have university courses in terminology. I'm teaching some myself. There's also the summer school, the terminology summer school that's offered in Europe every year or 2 years, I think it is. These courses are very useful, but what they lack is a practical approach and an approach that focuses on the repurposability of linguistic resources that I call microcontent now. I have a classical foundation, if you will, a classical training in terminology. I've been a terminologist for my entire working life, which is several decades now. I was educated in the classical way at the University Laval in Quebec with very renowned terminology educators. And I also spent about 20 years in the ISO Technical Committee 37 as a Canadian delegate. And those two areas, my classical training and my ISO involvement, gave me a very solid foundation in the classical theories and methods of terminology management. And this is how university courses and, dare I say, the terminology summer school that's offered in Europe are aligned in this direction. They are very theoretical. They're very classical. They teach the classical foundations of terminology management. And there is a missing piece there, which we now need in order to apply best practices and methods of terminology management to this extended notion of micro content and the incredible opportunities that it opens for us. So I have the classical foundation. There are principles in the classical approaches that are very good. But as I said, we need to learn more. We need to learn how to manage digital content in a very progressive way. And we need to look at it as micro content and not constrain ourselves within this sort of narrower notion of terminology. I have a lot of experience as a terminologist, as I mentioned earlier, and spent quite a few years in IBM managing their terminology resources. And this is what led me to have more of a, how shall I call it, a digital corpus-based approach to terminology management and to kind of question some of those classical theories that I had brought with me from my earlier background. And that's when after about 15 years at IBM, I decided to further expand my understanding of these potential applications. And so I undertook a PhD, which I completed in 2014. And also in the last, also during that time, starting around 2010, I began to do a lot of consulting work with organizations, starting with IBM and then moving on to other companies and organizations. So my experience is very broad, and it has led me to strongly believe, that we're no longer really talking about terminology. We're talking about micro content. We have to start talking about micro content in order to realize the benefits that it offers. Now we're talking, all of us, about artificial intelligence, AI. We can't help but talk about it. It's dominating the discussion threads in social media. I've been following, for example, many discussions in LinkedIn about artificial intelligence. Now, I had the belief even before AI really became a major question, a major issue right now. I always had the belief that digital linguistic resources in the micro content level, the small pieces and bits and pieces of language, could be leveraged in all sorts of applications. Before AI, we were talking about machine translation, but now it's AI. And I'm not alone in this belief, okay? If you follow the threads in LinkedIn, you will see, for example, Mike Iantoska, I'm just looking at my notes here right now, Mike Iantoska, who is the Senior Director of Content Platforms and Knowledge Management at Avalara, and who spent actually 38 years prior to that at IBM designing content models. He has claimed, and I love this quotation, he says, a term base, which is a terminology database, is the foundation for a semantic stack, without which your taxonomies and ontologies are built on a house of cards. I think that's a fantastic way of putting it. And all of the AI experts are declaring right now that AI will not work until we have an external, will not work to its optimal level, that is, until we have until we train it and base it upon an external source of curated truth. And that external source of curated truth has to be micro content structured with interrelationships in a highly granular fashion and a highly machine readable fashion. And this is where I'm going with my course. I teach all of the foundations of terminology management, but in particular, those parts that can help us to move terminology management into the new era that will actually serve artificial intelligence as well as other applications. Okay, so my courses do cover the classical basics, but there are extras. It's the things you need to know in order to apply those basic principles to the notion of repurposable digital micro content and its applications to all kinds of areas, including now artificial intelligence. Speaking of LinkedIn, I even read this morning, I forget who it was, but one of the people who have been posting about AI and computer-assisted translation has claimed that we are entering a new era where there will not be actually any more translation memories. That's a pretty dramatic idea, pretty revolutionary idea to suggest that computer-assisted translation will soon no longer make use of translation memories. And I don't disagree with that. I think we are moving in that direction. But what's going to take its place? It's going to be this highly structured micro content that we need to build. They serve ontologies, they serve taxonomies, they serve artificial intelligence based on large language models, and which you also use these things called knowledge graphs. All of these special words, all of these keywords are actually talking about terminology and structured micro content. Doesn't matter. Taxonomies, ontologies, knowledge graphs, generative AI, large language models, search engine optimization, synsets, all of those things are based on the foundations of terminology management. And my course is built to prepare you for at least being able to talk about these things and also potentially being able to develop lexical resources that can serve these applications. Thank you for watching for this short video. Actually, it's almost 10 minutes. Sorry about that. I hope you will find these courses interesting, and I would welcome your feedback. Thanks, and have a great day.